Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. The Israelites have been scattered across the four corners of the earth, as prophesied in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Here in Israel United in Christ, we need your help to recover the remnant of our people, teach them the gospel. Please help us, support us, and join or donate to the Booster Club today. Shalom.
Psalms chapter 111, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever.
You see that? It says good understanding comes from all they that do his commandments. So that's why that's gonna be your, when you might hear it, you might have already started hearing it, milk. Oh, we need the milk of the word. That's the milk, the commandments. You want to learn the commandments and start doing them and keeping them. And then the more you read and as you keep the commandments more, you're going to get that good understanding. Also, this is another way what the prophet Isaiah told us in Isaiah 28. Read that.
Isaiah chapter 28, verse 9. Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine?
So it said, whom shall he teach knowledge? Whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Read.
Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
Mm-hmm. Them that are like babies that are take their mind to a baby state, meaning to learn, to be humble enough to learn, because we, especially in this truth today, we all are coming in as grown people. We're all coming in as some sort of years of thinking that we already know something. So that's what he means by drawn from the breast, milk. You know, babies, you know, they get weaned from the breast. Read.
For precept must be upon precept.
So that's the other way to make sure you understand the Bible. It says precept must be upon precept. Read.
Precept upon precept.
Mm-hmm.
Line upon line. Line upon line. Here a little and there a little.
So what that's telling you is what happens is you might be reading something and you might not understand what it means. Right? The Bible explains itself. So you say, oh man, what is he saying? Okay, I keep saying heart here. What is that saying? Then you go to another place in another place in the Bible, and you read, and it talks about in his heart he think. You go, oh, that's what he's talking about. So heart means your mind, because that's what thinks, right? It explains itself. That's precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. So that's how the Bible must be read, as the prophet Isaiah said. So that's also how you're going to gain understanding, by taking something here, and then you learn like, oh, okay, that's what it says here. That's what that's talking about over there. That's what that means. All right? So precept upon precept, also keeping the commandments, you're going to gain more understanding. All right, you got something on that?
Yeah. Can you get Deuteronomy 6 and 7?
All praises.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in the house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them.
That's all I want. So the reason I went there first is because as a nation, we're commanded to teach our children, like Officer said, the law. So the first thing you want to do is learn the law, like Officer said. After learning the law, go to Psalm 78 real quick. So after you learn the laws and you get the laws in your spirit, because that's what you're going to grow. You can't go throughout this Bible and learn to navigate throughout this Bible if you don't know the commandments. Because everything goes back to the commandments in this Bible. Everything. Start at verse 3.
Psalm chapter 78, verse 3. Which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us.
Wait, start at verse 1. I should have just went here in the beginning. Go ahead.
Give ear, O my people, to my law.
You see that? That's the first thing he's saying. Give ear to my law, because that's what's going to give you the wisdom. Like obviously, Yari was bringing that. Read.
Incline your ears to the words of my mouth.
Come on.
And I will open my mouth in a parable, and I will utter dark sayings of old.
You see, that's how you're going to be able to understand those dark sayings, by knowing the laws. Read.
Which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide. We will not hide them from their children, showing to the generation to come. Showing to the generation to come the praise of the Lord and his strength and his wonderful works that he hath done. For he has...
Stop. The wonderful works that he has done is going into what? Has done is going into history. So after you learn the law, you want to start learning the history. You want to start reading through Kings, Chronicles, history of Susanna, all the historical, history of our forefathers. Law, then history. That's the way you want to read the Bible. As I also told me when I first came in. The laws, learn the laws, and then start learning the history. All right? And then go to the New Testament, because the history leads us into the New Testament, which is just the fulfilling of the old, what we call the Old Testament.
All right, all praises, and that's definitely it. Laws, then history. All praises. I'll take a question from a sister. It says, can you please read that one? Can you please go into more detail on Ciroc 37:27? Get Ciroc 37:27.
Ciroc chapter 37, verse 27. My son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it.
Read on.
For all things are not profitable for all men, neither have every soul pleasure in everything.
So notice it says, all things are not profitable for all men, neither have every soul pleasure in everything. So it says, my son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it. Because what happens is, you have to know you. That's why this is a precept with 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. So read that, and then we'll come back to Ciroc 37. You have to know you.
2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. Examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves?
Know ye not your own selves? It says, prove your own self. Read.
How that Jesus Christ is in you, except ye be reprobates.
Unless you be useless, lest you be reprobate. So, okay, where's the baby? Let's go, baby. So it says, prove you, know you not your own self. That's what that is talking about. That's what that is talking about. So now go back to Ciroc 37:27. So you must know your own self, first of all. Read it again. 27.
Ciroc chapter 37, verse 27. My son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it.
So then it says, see what's evil for it. You hear his mic spiking? Can you fix that? It says, see what's evil for it, your own soul. So that's the next part. So you have to know yourself, and then you have to know what's evil for it. Read 28 again.
For all things are not profitable for all men, neither have every soul pleasure in everything.
So it says all things are not profitable for all men, neither have every soul pleasure in all things. Why? Because myself and Mattathias, we can go watch a rated R movie that has some sex scenes in it. But let's say the brother Josephus may not be able to do that. He tells us, we say, hey, bro, let's go watch this movie. He be like, nah, bro, I can't do that. Because he knows himself. That might send him off into a whirlwind. Who knows? As you sisters, same difference. That's what that means by prove yourself. Know what's good for your soul and give not to it. Because if you're battling with something, you don't want to take your mind there. You have to know you. You have to know, okay, well, you know what? I'm an ex-drunkard. I'm an ex-alcoholic. Me and my sisters then got together. The sisters brought some strong out, and we're taking cups. I know I can't do that. I'll break bread. I can drink a little bit of wine to break bread, but that's as far as I can go. I know I can't do that. Hey, I'm going to drink apple juice. I'm going to drink milk. I'm not going to, but I'm still going to have a good time with my sisters, but I know I can't do that. You have to know you. That's what that's talking about when it says prove yourself. You have to know you. Then it says see what's evil for your soul. Because next thing you know, let's say you take that drink with your sisters, it's in righteousness. You're not getting drunk. You don't even get drunk that night. But now tomorrow, now you craving. Now you're at home getting slaughtered. That's evil for your soul. Now you're in a path of drunkenness. So you have to know you. You have to know what's evil for you. That's what that's going into. You got something? No, sir. That's what that's going into. I got another one, and then you can do yours. Brothers, anybody else got another question? We go back and forth. Okay, while you guys are still thinking, this is another one that says, is sex marriage? No. The question is sex marriage? The reason why this happens is, especially throughout the Israelite community, because you go to the scriptures, and the scriptures tell you, if you find a damsel and you have sex with them, you must what, brothers? You must marry her. Whether you realize it or not, that is judgment. Because there shall not be a whore of the daughters of Israel, or the daughters of Zion. That is judgment. We're not going to allow you to be found a fornicator among the nations. So when a brother entice a maid and have sex with her, he must now marry her, because that is the judgment for you fornicating. Now you must marry her. She's yours now. That does not constitute marriage. Yes, you must marry her now because you had sex. So now let's see what the Bible says. This is your answer if anytime this question is asked to you, is sex marriage? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 22.
Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse
29. No. Start at 27.
For he found her in the field, and the betrothed...
Oh, no, you know what? Let's get the whole point. Start at 23 first.
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 23.
So, no, matter of fact, let's start at 22 first so you can see the opposite. So start at 22.
If a man be found lying with a woman, married to an husband, then they shall both of them die. Both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. So shalt thou put away evil from Israel.
So that's what happens if they're married to a woman. I mean, if they found lying with a married woman. Go to Exodus 22. So we can see the difference. Exodus 22. Let me get it. Read it. Verse 16, read.
Exodus chapter 22, verse 16. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed.
So it says, if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, she's single and she's at a marriageable age. Read.
And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife.
He should surely endow her to be his wife. Now, there's a dowry of virgins. Virgin in the Bible is saying a woman of acceptable age to marry. We see virgin as untouched by man. In the Bible, it speaks of a woman that's at the acceptable age of marriage, 20 and above. So it says the dowry of virgins. We won't get into that part. We just answer the question. If you guys don't know, just go, well, we're going here anyway. So let's go to Deuteronomy 22. Yes.
And the reason people attribute virginity to untouched is because that's what you were supposed to be at the time of you being ready to marry.
Right, all praises. All praises. You're supposed to be untouched. All praises. 22.
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 22. If a man be found lying with a woman married to an husband.
Oh, we read that. 23, I'm sorry.
If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto her husband.
So if a damsel that is of acceptable age and untouched is betrothed to who?
A husband.
Is betrothed unto a husband. if you're betrothed, have you had sex yet? No. You're supposed to consecrate your marriage in the wedding chambers at the time of your ceremony of marriage. Then you go into the marriage chamber. Then you have sex. So if you're betrothed, you have not had sex yet. Read.
And a man find her in the city and lie with her. Then ye shall bring them both out of the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones, that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he hath humbled his neighbor's wife.
Wait a minute. She's betrothed, and she has not had sex. But it says what?
Because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he hath humbled his neighbor's wife.
But he humbled his neighbor's wife. But they have had no sex. That's how you know sex does not mean marriage. They hadn't had sex yet. But he humbled his neighbor's wife because she was promised. She was betrothed. Do we understand? Now, if you have sex unmarried, you must do what? Congregation? Sisters?
Also, to add on to that too, think about it, because sometimes you'll have sex with a person and you guys aren't compatible. So the Bible forcing you to, it's a judgment, like officer said, because now you have to marry this person, and now you got a rocky relationship. You guys don't even get along. You pissed off at one another. You know how loathsome that is on a soul? You guys are gonna have to find ways to actually fall in love, because it was all lust that brought you together. We get Matthew 19, verse 8, just to show, because what I call those things, they're like, because when you read it's not Micah, but Malachi, it says, I'm the Lord that changed not, that ye sons of Jacob aren't consumed. Moses was allowed to implement stuff the same way Paul did when you read in the New Testament. He says, I say this, what is this? I ain't about to paraphrase it. You'll read it one day in your walk. But Moses was allowed to do certain things so that we as a nation wouldn't be consumed. Because if he didn't, if the law, I call them outlet laws that got us out of stuff. All right, read.
Matthew chapter 19, verse 8. He saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart.
You see that? Because of the hardness, because we were so hard-headed, read.
Suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so.
So that was the point. I was using that to show that there were certain things that from the beginning wasn't supposed to be a certain way, but because we were hard-headed, God allowed certain laws to be implemented so we wouldn't be destroyed as a people.
Oh, here, and I'll get it. I said it because we were going to Deuteronomy 22 anyways, about the dowry of the virgin, just so you guys could know what that is. 28 and 29, read that in Deuteronomy 22.
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found.
So the same thing what we read in Exodus 22:16. Read.
Then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver.
That's the dowry. He must marry her. What did it say in 6 or 17, Exodus 22? Read that. Yeah, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. Now he must do it. Read. That's why in the world, a lot of people actually do this. They always say the father must pay for the wedding. The father of the bride pays for the wedding. All that is a dowry. All right? But guess who's really paying for it, according to the Bible? The husband. He's giving the money to the father. Read.
17, sir.
No, we got it. Surely endow. Endow.
Yes, sir.
So go back to Deuteronomy 22.
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 29. Then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days.
You see that? Judgment. That's what that is. Basically, it becomes unhonorable to the Most High. you honor the Most High by getting married. So they also call it in the world shotgun marriages. Shotgun marriage. All right. Also comes from the Bible. All right. So that's how you have to see it. So now that marriage must do what? They must work hard to show the Lord that they're honoring him. Right? Go ahead.
Yeah, we got a question. It says, I like this question. It says, what type of questions should a sister ask, and what type should a sister not ask? Ask or allowed to ask when reading my Bible, questions come up. All right, I'm gonna take the long route on this because I like this question.
The long route.
Yeah, not too long, but I mean just a couple scriptures.
I'll take this question.
There's a couple scriptures. All right, I'm gonna set the tone for why what I'm about to say. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 14. Start at verse 34.
1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 34. Let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law.
Read.
And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husband at home. For it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church.
So now, I know the sister single says, well, what if I'm single? Okay, cool. Well, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into what kind of questions y'all should ask. Let's go. I'm just setting the tone. Go to 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 11.
1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 11. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence.
Now, so we know that doesn't mean a woman can't teach at all. But we know that there are certain things that a woman are to teach. So let's go to Psalms 131. Wait, no, I want the one in Numbers about putting a man over the head. It's like Numbers 28, number 27, putting a man over the congregation. Who knows it? Which one of you brothers know it off the top of your head? I know I'm getting close to it. I think it's Numbers 28:17. Oh, here it is, 27:16.
Numbers chapter 27, verse 16. Let the Lord, the God of the spirit of flesh, set a man over the congregation.
Stop. Okay, so now I'm just setting the tone. So a woman is supposed to learn in silence. A woman can't teach or usurp authority over a man, so she's not going to lead the congregation, right? And it says that let the Lord of God of all spirits set a man over the congregation. So now that leads me into what you should be asking. Because the questions you shouldn't be asking are deep questions, because you're never going to have to teach that. It's the men's job to go out and cast down the imagination. Let me get that real quick. It's still part of the long route. Go to 1 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 10, right? 2 Corinthians 10. Because I want you to get everything you can get out of this, so this never gets asked again, because I already know why it's being asked. Because sisters like being deep, and they don't like getting told not to be deep. So, go verse 3. We're going to get straight to the point.
2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh.
Did women ever go to war? Brothers, did women ever go to war?
No, sir.
All right, read on.
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal.
Come on.
But mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds.
So guess what? The men are the warriors. We're the ones that are going to be pulling down these strongholds. Read on.
Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ.
So the knowledge of God is the Bible, the laws, the commandments, the deep mysteries, the revelations. That was never the woman's job to teach those things. So your questions should never be pertaining to those things. You know when you get those things answered is when class is being taught. Because you're never going to be on the streets teaching about that kind of stuff. You're never going to be going to the repentant of our people, going to teach them about the Bible and the deep mysteries. It's not your job. So that answers the part about what type of questions should you ask, not those. Now we're going to, or not to ask. That's the part about not to ask. Don't ask those type of questions. That's what you should never be focused on. That has nothing to do with your walk. When it comes out, all praise to the Most High, you learn it. But those should not, even we tell brothers that be young in the spirit, don't ask those type of questions. Because yours should be building up on the milk. Even with me. Deacon Arthur told me, What are you asking me that for? Oh, you're right, Deacon. I ain't got nothing to do with my salvation. You get what I'm saying? So if the men are told that, even much more so you sisters, because you sisters ain't going to be dealing with that type of stuff, ever. All right, now let's go to what you should be asking about. Go to Ciroc 8 and 8.
Ciroc, chapter 8, verse 8. Despise not the discourse of the wise, but acquaint thyself with their proverbs. For of them thou shalt learn instruction, and how to serve great men with ease.
You see that? You guys should be trying to figure out how to support the troops. That's what it means, serve the great men, in that part where I'm attributing it to you sisters. How to serve the great man with ease. All right? What your spirit should be like. How do you approach men? How do you deal with men in the congregation? That should be questions that you ask. And you should be seeking to the Titus 2. Let's go to Titus 2 now. This is the end. Start at verse 3.
The book of Titus, chapter 2, verse 3. The aged woman likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness.
Come on.
Not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things.
Come on.
That they may teach the young woman to be sober.
Stop. Ask if you got a problem with being sober. Go to the older sisters. Okay, how do I wean myself off of drinking so heavy? These are questions you should be asking. The questions that pertain to women. Come on.
To love their husbands.
Biblically, you should be asking that because a lot of sisters don't know how to love their husbands coming into this truth. They don't know how to love properly a man of God, a prophet of God, because you don't really know how to deal with them. That goes back to Ciroc 8 and 8. How to serve a great man with ease. Read.
To love their children.
How to love your children. How do I properly love my children? Because what we were taught love is and coddling our kids, that's not what the Bible calls love. The Bible says if you love your kid, you'll make them off to feel the rod. Some sisters got a problem whooping their kids, and that's why their kids run around here like little demons. I ain't talking about you sisters in Seattle. I ain't talking about around here. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that's what happens. Read them.
To be discreet.
Some sisters don't know discretion when they come in. They got to learn how to be more discreet. What does it mean to be discreet as a woman? That's the type of questions we should be asking. You should be asking their sisters. Read on.
To be discreet. Where is it? To be chaste.
To be chaste. What is it? Because some sisters, they come in with vulgar mouths. They don't realize some of their conversations aren't chaste. You got to ask, how do I be, what is biblically, read on. I'm going to just let it read out.
Keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed.
Those are the type of questions you should be asking that are pertaining to what you find in here. What should I teach my children? How do I love my children? How do I love my husband? How can I help? How can I support the troops? Those are the type of questions that are pertinent to your salvation. Knowing the deep stuff that ain't going to help you get into the kingdom as a man or a woman, but especially as a woman. Your focus should be right here within Titus 2 and Ciroc 8 and 8.
I'll give you guys one other thing. When it comes to what questions should be asked and should not be asked. Because like Officer said, we know it comes from you want to know something deep, or you want to, well, I was just reading and go to Proverbs 31.
Yes, sir.
Start at verse 8.
Proverbs chapter 31, verse 8.
Now, you sisters all know Proverbs 31. This is Lemuel's mother, also Solomon, his mother, telling him how to be a man. This is a mother teaching her son in the beginning. Read.
Open thy mouth for the dumb in the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies.
Stop. Oh, read on. I want 11.
The heart of her husband does safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil.
So she's in the middle of teaching her son what to do and how to be and what to look for. So another question or a line of questions that you may have as a sister is those things. You want to understand judgment. You might read something that pertains to judgment, because you need to teach this to the younger sisters. You need to teach this to your children. So that's another line of questioning that you also will want to ask, of how to discern judgment. All right? Also with the history. You might be confused with something in the history. So you want to learn those things because that's how you're going to be able to teach your children. But as far as deep parables and dark sayings, there's never a time for you to teach that. If you understand it when it comes out in class, all praises. Now you got it. But there's never a real reason for you to really, let's say you had a question, you didn't realize it was a deep parable or dark saying. So your answer will be, oh, sis, it's a dark saying, it's a deep parable. Let that be your answer and say, okay, all praises. But things of judgment, because you want to be able to teach the children that, the young sisters that. Also, obviously, along with Officer Mathias was saying, things of judgment, things of how to deal as a woman. So these are the things you need to teach your young boys. That's the real reason for the judgment part. But also the sisters as well. All right? Because you're raising up kings. All right? Princes and kings. So that's another line of questioning that you may ask, that you may want to ask as far as gaining more wisdom for yourself. So, you know, those are the things that you're also wanting to be teaching. We got another one. Somebody go around again. Do any other sisters have more questions over there that they need to pass up? When disciplining, wait, brothers, let's go to y'all. Who got a question? We didn't read like 2, 3, all praises.
Shalom, leadership.
Hey, shalom, bro. Most bless.
So I covered this with Brother Mattathias, but I'm still struggling with it on hair covering, 1 Corinthians 11,
Okay.
1 through 15, where in 15 it says that her long hair is still a hair covering. So I'm having struggles with that with my family, the women in my family when we pray.
Okay.
They don't want to cover their head. So if you have some precepts for that, I'd appreciate it.
Read that.
1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 15. But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering.
Read on.
But if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God. Now in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not.
So stop. So now here's the confusion. So go down to verse, read up to verse 10. Start at 10.
For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man.
Because that doesn't give the beginning. Start at verse 6. This is where you'll go. This is, we would say cut, but you're explaining. This is where the understanding comes from. So this is what you read to the women that don't want to cover their head. Read verse 6.
For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn.
Wait a minute. So if you don't want to cover your head, you should do what then? What is that saying? You should be shorn. Now, any woman knows it's a shame for that. It's always been a shame. In every nation, all throughout the earth, it's a shame for a woman to be bald. But what does Scripture say? Read it again.
For if a woman be not covered, let her also be shorn.
Read.
But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered.
See that? So now is it talking about your hair? Because it just said cut it off then if you don't want to cover. If you don't want to cover your head, then shave. It's a shame to shave off your head. So be covered. Now where's the misconception comes from? Read on.
For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he hath the image.
But wait a minute. So that means the men should walk around bald-headed because the hair is your covering. So that means, man, if we go with the idea that the hair is the covering, that means men can't have hair because he shouldn't be covered. That doesn't make sense, and the Bible does not contradict itself. Read on.
For as much as he is the image and glory of God. But
here is the misconception. So now if you understand, now it changes. It switches now. Now we're going into what? The glory. Now here's the point. This is why we would uncover our heads to show respect to Christ and God. This is why the woman would cover her head to show respect to man, Christ and God. Read.
But the woman is the glory of the man.
Read it again.
For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God. But
the man is the image and glory of God. Read.
But the woman is the glory of man.
The woman is the glory of man. Read on.
For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man.
Read.
Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels.
Read.
Nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man in the Lord. For as the woman is of the man, even so is the man also by the woman.
So we need each other. The woman needs the power of the man, Christ and God. Same way she's a glory to man, Christ and God. Read.
But all things of God, judging yourselves, is it comely that a woman pray unto God uncovered?
So is that a beauty? Is that a beautiful thing? Is it good? Is it comely? Read.
Doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him?
So this is why it went into another direction, because that was the problem in Corinth. Men were walking around effeminate. They were using their long hair in effeminate ways. So he had to teach them about being effeminate, using their hair for their beauty. The woman has the hair for beauty, which is a glory unto man. The man is a glory unto God. He doesn't need to use his hair for beauty. Now, is it a commandment? That's why. Read on. I'm going to show you.
But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her.
You see that? The woman's long hair is a glory to her. Read.
For her hair is given her for a covering.
Read.
But if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God.
So that custom was, there's no such custom for a man to not have long hair, but don't use it effeminately. So a man can have long hair. There's no such custom if any man's contentious about having short hair. Because some brothers like long hair. So there's no such custom that we have to have short hair. But the long hair is for the woman's beauty, which is a glory unto man. The man don't use his long hair as beauty to be a glory unto God. But there's no such custom that a man needs short hair. It's not talking about there's no such custom that a woman shouldn't cover her head. That's why it switched over. So the top portion still remains. You understand? You got something on that? All right. We got any other questions? Oh, yeah. Yep, brother next to him.
Shalom, shalom. My question is in Matthew 13 and 33.
All right, you got that one.
I'm having trouble breaking down that parable.
All right, all praises.
All right. Read it.
Matthew chapter 13, verse 33. Another parable spake he unto them. The kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid their measures of meal till the whole was leavened.
Go to 1 Corinthians 5. Let me show you something.
13:3.
Yeah.
Verse
You got it?
13.
The one that talks about ruining the whole lump.
Verse.
Okay. All right. We got to get a
Verse
definition
8.
first. So sometimes you got to look up these words because I ain't never really looked up the word meal in that sentence. But we're gonna read it real quick.
Verse 7.
It should say the edible part of any grain. Here, I got it. I'm going to just read it because this is too much. It says, the edible part of any grain or pulse ground to powder, such as cornmeal. All right? Like that. So when it says, another parable he spake unto them, the kingdom of heaven, which is of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal till the whole was leavened. Going into creating dough, right? So if you put leavening agent into like a cornmeal or something, it's going to create it. It's going to turn it into a dough. So that's all it's saying is like the kingdom of heaven is saying is like. Another one says it's like a mustard seed. That one is plant is the smallest of the seed, but it blossoms into the biggest thing. So right now, go to 1 Corinthians. I want the one about sent out the apostles last. Because we're the Israelites' doctrine in the earth is the smallest doctrine in the earth right now, right? But one day it's gonna fill up the whole earth and become the biggest thing, right? It starts small, like that meal, like the leaven in the meal. But eventually it overtakes that meal and it becomes the whole thing becomes leaven. So it's the same thing with this truth. It starts small like the mustard seed because it's the same parable. It means the same thing. But it's going to eventually grow into the largest thing on earth. What's that? I see you still have your hand up.
I had my hand up because I want to go with it. The only thing I had to go with it for the 11, since you brought up the doctrine, was Matthew 16 and 12.
Right. That's read that real quick, Vanessa.
1 Corinthians or Matthew?
Matthew, 16 and 12 real quick. Start at verse 8.
Matthew chapter 16, verse 8.
Wait. Start at verse 6. That's the point.
Then Jesus said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Mm-hmm. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, is it because we have taken no bread?
Now drop down to verse 12.
Then understood they how that they bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees.
So I wanted to show you that leaven is compared to doctrine in the scriptures. So that's what that is talking about in Matthew's, where was we at, 13, 30, 33? Read that again, start at verse 31, because I want to show you it's the same Christ said the same parable in a row, but just 2 different ways, right? Start at verse 31 this time.
Matthew chapter 13 and verse 31. And another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of a mustard seed, mm-hmm. which a man took and sowed in his field, mm-hmm. which indeed is the least of all seeds.
Stop. You see that? It's the least of all seeds. Same thing with today. We are the least of all religions on earth, right? But read.
Which indeed is the least of all seeds. But when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs.
You see that? But when it comes to its fullness and Israel repent, it's going to be the greatest thing on earth. That's going to be the only thing on earth that matters is our laws, our statutes, our commandments, and how we do and how we operate. Read on.
And becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. Mm-hmm. Another parable spake he unto them, the kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole was leavened.
All right, so go ahead, Austin. I'm looking for something else.
Go to Luke 13. Same exact thing, but it says it a little differently, and hopefully it helps you understand a little better. Start at verse 18.
Luke chapter 13, verse 18. Then said he, unto what is the kingdom of God like, and whereunto shall I resemble it? It is like a grain of a mustard seed, which a man took and cast into his garden, and grew it, and waxed a great tree, and the fowls of the air lodged in the branches of it. And again he said, whereunto shall I liken the kingdom of God? It is like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole was leavened.
You see that? Till the whole was leavened. Holy. It was fully done. Just like that mustard seed grew into a great tree. So exactly what Officer Mathias is saying. So you could use that to help you better understand. But watch what else. Read on.
And he went through the cities and villages, teaching and journeying toward Jerusalem. Then said one unto him, Lord, are there few that be saved? And he said unto them,
because what happens? Because just like today, we think there's just only a little bit. It's not a whole. It's not like, okay, we say, okay, and we can see that the truth is growing, but it's still a little compared to everything else. Read on.
Strive to enter in at the straight gate. For many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in, and shall not be able.
He said it doesn't matter that it's few, because only little is going to get in regardless. So you need to just seek to enter into that gate. You understand? All right, all praises. Any other questions? Did we get some more passed up? No, that's that one. I got this one right here. Okay, I'm about to read this other one from another sister. It says, when disciplining my child, what is the difference between being clamorous and raising my voice? Let's go to clamorous real quick. Go to Proverbs. What's that, 15? No, 7. Proverbs 7. Clamorous knowing nothing. Start at verse 11, chapter 7.
Proverbs chapter 7, verse 11. She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. Now is she without, now in the streets, and lieth in wait at every corner. So she caught him.
Oh, where's clamorous knowing nothing? Someone find clamorous knowing nothing. 9, there you go.
Proverbs chapter 9, verse 13. A foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple and knoweth nothing. For she sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city, to call passengers who go right on their ways. Who is simple, let him turn in hither. And as for him that wanteth understanding.
So all I wanted was, she is simple and knowing nothing. Then when you take that which she is loud and stubborn, it says her feet abideth not in her house. So the clamorous woman is, first of all, loud, stubborn, and simple and knowing nothing, right? So the difference between you chastising your child and being clamorous is you, again, now this is going back to examining yourself. Are you working out of, well, I always say vain, but that's not going to help you. So are you working out of emotion? Meaning, obviously, when you go to discipline your child, most parents are obviously upset at them, right? So you have to make sure that you're just not yelling for no reason. When you chastise your children, you have to make sure that you are explaining things to them. You're teaching them. So if they do something, you're supposed to teach them. They do it again, you're supposed to show them that you have already taught them. Once they do it again, now you're showing them this is why you're being disciplined, because you know now. You've learned. I've taught you. So when you're being stern with your children, that just means really, let's look up the definition of stern. Watch this.
Stern, of a person or their manner, serious and unrelenting, especially in the assertion of authority and exercise of discipline. Synonyms: serious, unsmiling.
There it is. Synonyms: serious, unsmiling,
frowning, poker-faced, severe, forbidding, grim, unfriendly.
So this is what we're going to use, especially with the poker face. What that's telling you is when you're being stern, you're doing what? You're showing no emotion. You're being strict. So now you have to examine yourself. Am I being very emotional towards the child because I'm upset at them because of what they did? Now you're just yelling. You're not teaching them. Or am I being stern and strict and I'm showing no emotion? I'm telling them, look, this is what you did. This is what's wrong. This is why now you're being punished. That's the difference between clamorous and stern. Because stern is actually no emotion. So you're being strict with them. You're not going to let their cries take you away from punishing them, right? You're not going to be slack on punishing them because, oh, they feel bad. Or no, you're going to be stern. It says unrelentless. So that's not being clamorous. Clamorous is when you know you're just a ball of emotion. Maybe you're acting out on them because you had a bad day. They did something minor, now you blowing up. And they looking at you confused because they don't understand. Anytime your child look at you confused, you know there's an issue. Because you want to make sure they know why they're being punished. Because you're supposed to be teaching your child. When you just haul off and yell at them, what they know. A lot of times that's why children do things multiple times in a row, because guess what? You didn't teach them. You thought you taught them because you yelled at them. But you didn't teach them. That's why they're doing it again. They still didn't get it. They didn't understand. Then, as the parent, what do? You lose your patience. Once you've lost your patience, now you're very upset, which more yelling comes out with emotion. And guess what? The child still doesn't learn. So be mindful of that. And that's for everyone, men and women. We want to make sure we're teaching the children. We want to make sure that they're actually learning. That way they know now. So guess what? And you know when you taught your child too, because why? When they do something they're not supposed to do, they go, they know. They're not just looking at you scared like, oh God. Now sometimes that happens too, right? Especially the old school mamas, they just get a face. And the child know. But then a lot of times the child does something and they know they messed up. And they look at you like, I messed up. They know they did. Why? Because you taught them already. Because they know they have learned not to do that. All right? Brothers, you got something?
Hey, go to Ezekiel 16. We're going to read 44 and 45. Because I've seen it happen a lot throughout my life. And just be mindful of this, because we're going to read it. Read it real quick.
Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 44. Behold, everyone that useth proverbs shall this proverb against thee, saying, as is the mother, so is her daughter.
First and foremost, a lot of the stuff our black moms, who were a lot angry and bitter growing up because we had good-for-nothing dads, we'll say it, a lot of the ways they dealt with us wasn't right. They dealt with us with anger, disgust, disdain, pent-up emotions against the father. And a lot of that has trickled down, a good majority of that has trickled down to that next generation. And we're supposed to break that cycle as repentant Israelites. So we don't need to deal with our kids the way our parents dealt with us. Watch, read.
As is the mother, so is her daughter.
Come on.
Thou art thy mother's daughter, that loatheth her husband.
Now, the word loathe means, it says, feel intense dislike or disgust for. And that happens because kids can be annoying as hell. And you'll find yourself, especially with the younger kids that can't really talk, who are on that age, that cusp where they know but they don't know. So they do. You tell them not to do. They do it right after. And now you're pissed off. You got to be mindful about that emotion, because it can build up disdain towards your child. And then when you deal with them, you're dealing with them very, very harsh, out the spirit. So that's when you'll know the difference. That's another thing to watch out for, is to not just be that clamorous, pissed off mom, is be patient. The same way you want people to be patient with you in this walk. That's why I told, obviously, I read, the best thing that could happen to me was having kids. Because I understand on a spiritual level better how to deal with grown adults who don't know better when they come in. And not automatically writing them off in my head like, oh, there's another nigga coming in the door. You get what I'm saying? Because when you deal with your kids, they're annoying. They do annoying stuff. But you gotta walk uprightly towards your kids and deal with them the right way. Or you're going to teach them how to be violent. You're going to teach them how to, you know what I'm saying? They're not going to trust you growing up. Then they're going to go off because you didn't deal with them right when they were young. And 2 is a pivotal age. I'll tell you that straight. I'm dealing with a 2-year-old. Be trying the heck out of my wife. But you got to be patient, because if you don't, you'll be out the spirit and you'll be hitting them harder than you meant to hit them. You'll have these, you start realizing how aggressive you are towards your child, because you got that spirit of loathing your child. And you start having that disgust for them, that the strong dislike, because they're so annoying, but you're not practicing patience. And that happens a lot with sisters, especially, because sisters are irrational by nature.
Read on, finish it.
that loatheth her husband and her children, and thou art the sister of thy sisters, which loathe their husbands and their children. Your mother was a Hittite, and your father an Amorite.
Well, that last part, he was just calling them names. He was just calling them names. Yeah, you didn't know God called you names. But notice it said husbands and children. Husbands and children. All right. So that is the difference. That is the difference.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road. Purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.